How we doing, Paul?
We're doing okay, but fans here are not happy. We just had a guy call Mike Bobo a clown. They're angry. It always happens when dogs lose the spread. They did win the game. I know it's been 2 days ago, but it seemed like I remember that happening.
Yeah, I think the term was Bobo the Bozo.
Yeah, something like that.
I was sitting here listening to the show, back in the behind the scenes. I gotta be honest with you, Paul. I don't know why you just don't open the phone lines up constantly. Why even talk to a guy like me when Bobo the Bozo is going to get delivered? Not once, but twice. I think he doubled down on that one. That was delightful, honestly. He hammered that really, really well. But yeah, man, when you put up 13 points on the road, win by 1 point, don't maintain a lead until the fourth quarter when you're favored by 22 points. People are going to come with heat, particularly a fan base that really, really loves to let everyone know that they don't like their offensive coordinator. For some reason, there was this hiatus on this hatred for the coordinator when Monken was here. But since Bobo's taken over the realm again, the critics, they're back out, man. No matter what happens, they're right back there.
So, Brooks, what did Bobo the Bozo do wrong Saturday night?
Honestly, I want to start with what Kentucky did right, okay? This is a very veteran defensive unit from Kentucky. A lot of snaps and a lot of starts across the entire, levels of defense, particularly in the back end. I thought they did a tremendous job of varying and disguising coverages, okay? They just didn't line up and play one type of zone coverage. If you do that against Georgia over the last several years, I think the stat going into this game was Carson Beck had completed 86% of his balls against zone coverage. So how did Kentucky manage to play a bunch of zone in this football game and still manage to have a lot of success? They changed the looks pretty throughout the game. A really, really good job of doing that. And they obviously have a really, really talented defensive front. So they were able to really stack the box and crowd the box while also having a really good job or doing a really good job of defending the pass as well. So I think I want to start with what Kentucky did really, really well. I just offensively for Georgia didn't really have a good opportunity to start this game fast because they didn't get a lot of cracks at it, Paul. They only had 23 offensive snaps in the first half of this football game, one of which was a red zone possession provided by an offensive turnover for Kentucky, and the other one started in their own end. So just not a lot of opportunities at it, and you have to give Kentucky credit for that offensively. They maintained possession. At one point in this football game, I think they had the time of possession split at 25 minutes to just 10 for Georgia. So just didn't have a lot of cracks at it and didn't execute when they did, Paul.
Hey, you know what the narrative is. Happens every time we go to Lexington. It happened last year at Auburn, 2 years ago at Missouri. That is the narrative. The reality is there's injuries across the board on the defensive line, on the offensive line. Where is this football program today as we head to the bye week?
I still think you have to find consistency with the explosives on the offensive end, man. Like, if a couple of those balls, the deep crosser to Dylan Bell late in the third quarter, I think maybe even the start of the fourth, if that ball's hit, that's an explosive down the field. I think you have to maintain the ability to be consistent in that department. And that's something that's really struggled or really kind of been over the head of this offense for the last 2 years with Carson Beck at the starting quarterback position. Yeah, he completed the 73% of his balls last year, but I believe he was under 27 or under 30% on balls beyond 40 yards of air yards traveled. Those are all of our deep shots as an offense. If we can't be explosive in the back end as an offense, the opposition's going to walk up on us. They're not going to be very afraid of us, thus taking away our offensive ability to run the football. If you look at the way Clemson started that football game defensively and the way Kentucky started that football game and really maintained throughout those four quarters, they didn't really play a lot of two safety looks against Georgia. They rolled safeties into the box and they said, okay, you might be able to get behind us today, but we're going to find out if you can hit those shots. I think Alabama takes a very similar approach in 2 weeks because for the better part, like I said, Paul, the last year and a half, they've been very, very good across the board in every department. They have not been very good in those deep shot departments.
You've given Kentucky a lot of praise, and it's understandable, and you understand the game having played it, but give me your view of Mark Stoops' controversial decision late. It hasn't been a big deal because I think more are complimenting him, but the fourth down situation, what's going through your mind?
Yeah, I'm assuming you're alluded to not having gone for it right there. I think there's 2.5 minutes left in that football game, ball in the middle of the field. I'll be honest, I'm sitting there on the sideline, and I'm thinking, we might want to go for it here. And then I realized, this defense has played phenomenally. And not only that, they've played at a rate where they might turn the offense from Georgia over. The most explosive play in that football game got called back. It was a pick six. And that was Kentucky's defense forcing havoc. And I thought they did a really good job throughout that football game of doing so. If Kentucky were going to get a chunk play on that football or in that football game late in that fourth quarter, I felt like it might have come from their defense. And I thought Stoops with 3 timeouts left, plus the 2-minute timeout or whatever we're calling that thing, plus that, I thought it was a relatively decent decision of punting that football and trusting your defense. Because like I said, for 3.5 quarters, and to be honest with you, Paul, for the remainder of this football season, their best unit is their defense. It's their most veteran unit. It's their most dependable unit. It's their most predictable unit. Their offense is not quite that yet.
So here we are. We're at the bye week. Georgia fans are down. Instead of going into Tuscaloosa in 2 weeks with optimism and as a big favorite, maybe a touchdown, there's chaos. Something tells me deep down Kirby Smart is not upset, at least with the narrative. He may not like, one of our great callers calling Bobo the Bozo. I can't even get it right. So get into Kirby's mind right now. Help us understand what he's thinking.
Paul, he didn't even wait. He was in the post-game press conference with you guys as ESPN crew, and he was like, hey, we got something to fix. Like, how happy was he after that game? I mean, it was nothing but smiles, really, with the press conference. I looked at somebody before he walked in. I said, I already know what this dude's going to say. He's going to look us right in the eye and say, I told you he has a good football team. I told you we come up here, we're in a fourth quarter fist fight every single time. I don't think they're necessarily worried, but I will say this. They have not a major problem, but they got a problem they need to address at left tackle, and maybe both offensive tackle positions, but really left tackle. For the better part of last 2 weeks, I have felt like they have been susceptible to being hunted over at left tackle, even last week against a mid-major team. And that's something I saw Kentucky really get after and kind of approach early on in that football game, and had Carson Beck kind of rattled and playing off script pretty early in that football game. So I think they need to address that and continue to find weaponry and consistent weaponry. Arian Smith has been something to behold early on in this football season, but they couldn't really get him loose this week against Kentucky. So where are the consistent answers for the last couple of years offensively? It's been Brock Bowers. They have still yet to kind of find that consistent answer through 3 weeks of offensive play through the air.
Great stuff, Rich. Many, many thanks. So appreciate you making the time for us as we head to the break right now. A lot of phone calls straight ahead, and we will take them right after this.